I'm going to show you how to do a provisional cast on to start your Wolf Moon pouch. It starts off with a provisional cast on, and then you combine the provisional cast on with the working stitches in order to make a rolled hem. So things you need are your yarn for the pouch, a crochet hook, which is optional, you can use your finger if you want, waste yarn, and your working needles. Another extra thing you will need is an additional needle to hold your provisionally cast on stitches while you are creating the rolled hem. Ideally it would be the same size as your working needle, but it doesn't have to be exactly the same size. It can be 1 or 2 sizes different, and that'll be just fine. To start off, take your waste yarn and your crochet hook, and you're going to chain at least enough stitches as the amount you're casting on. So if I want 48 stitches, I want to make sure I chain 48 times. I typically do not count when I do this because it's okay to have a crochet chain that is longer than the amount of stitches you need. That doesn't hurt anything. So basically, get started, get your slip stitch on your crochet hook, and then just go ahead and chain. Now I am using this crochet hook because it makes it go faster, but if you don't have a crochet hook, you can also do this with your finger. So to crochet with your finger, make a slip stitch. Keep it nice and loose, and then bring the working yarn over your finger and basically use that finger as a hook to pull that slip stitch in. And you can tighten as you go. So even though your loops are very big, you can keep tightening. But as you can see, it's a little bit more cumbersome than just working with the hook, but if you don't have a hook, it'll work in a pinch. Okay, so we have our crochet chain now, and this is where a lot of people tell me they don't like the crochet chain cast on because they have a hard time telling where the bumps are that they're supposed to pick up. So I'm going to show you how to tell that. So basically, this is the front of our chain cast on. You can see that we have little V's here, and they look pretty similar to knit stitches, right? They have that V format. And I mean, my chain is loose in different gauges, but that's totally cool because it's just waste yarn. This is not the side that we will be picking up from, the side with the V's. If we flip it over, we can see these bumps. And you can see the edges of the V's on the other side. See that? Those edges are the same loops that form these V's. So basically the rule of this is that we don't want to touch the V's at all. So when we look at this back side and we are faced with these 3 different bump options, these 3 different loop options, we only want the middle one. These 2 side ones form these V's, and we're avoiding them. We're avoiding V's at all costs. So we will be picking up from these middle bumps. And once you get going, it's really easy to see the next bump. So we're basically just going to pick up a knit from each of these bumps. It's the same as picking up a knitting in a knitting project. So leave a tail on your working yarn. Take your needle, and we're just going to insert it from the front into one of those bumps, and then go into it with our right needle like we were picking up and knitting any stitch, and we will knit it. So you can see that purl bump is now at the back of that knit stitch, and you can see the next purl bump lines up right there. So we're going to go in that, and we're going to knit it. Now we have 2 stitches and 2 little purl bumps. See, that's really all you do, is you just look. If you get confused and this is like twisting and you don't know where you're going, it's the one that is right next to the last purl bump that you did. They're buddies. They hang out next to each other. When you pick up from one, the next one can get kind of smaller, so it can make it kind of hide a little bit. So that's what I like to do, is I just look in there and see that that bump is next. You can see it's going well because those V's that we weren't supposed to touch are forming at the bottom of our cast on there. Our bumps are at the back and our V's are at the bottom. So you can see this is actually where we're picking up from next, because it is next to this bump that we just went into. It looks small, right? Like it looks like maybe we should go into this one next. But as you pick up from the bumps, the slack from each of the bumps is pulled into this one. So that's why that one looks tiny and weird. But it's no big deal. If you stick your needle in there, it'll loosen up pretty quickly. So keep doing that until you have the right amount of cast on stitches. I have all of my stitches cast onto my waist yarn. You can see all my nice V's. And as you can see, I have a really big tail of crochet chain because I made way too many, but that's okay. And now I just work flats, and I will catch up with you again when we're going to do our rolled hem. So to do our transfer of these provisionally cast on stitches, so we can just cut our crochet chain, and then we will transfer those provisionally cast on stitches to the spare needle. So you see these purple bumps along the back, those are our stitches. So I just go into one of those. I'm going to unpick this and get the next one. You can unpick all of this at once if you want, but I don't want my stitches to drop down and then have to pick up any drop stitches, so I am kind of just going one at a time. So that's what it's like to do it one at a time. If you want to see, I can pull a couple at once so you can see that those are just regular old knit stitches, and we can just slip them onto the needle. So if you want to pull the whole crochet chain apart at once, you can, but I prefer to do it one at a time just to make sure we don't lose any. So we're all set up here. We have our stockinette in between our working stitches and our provisionally cast on stitches. They're all set up on these two separate needles. And all we're going to do is fold that in half along the middle with the working yarn needle in front and the provisionally cast on stitches needle in the back. You can just tuck that end out of the way. And we're basically going to be working a 3 needle bind off without doing any binding off. So we will be knitting the front needle and back needle stitches together. So just need to go in through the front of the stitch on the front needle, in through the stitch through the front on the back needle, and knit 2 together. So now we have just 1 stitch from those 2 stitches. And do that across the whole thing. So you go in through the front of both needle number 1 in the front here and needle number 2 in the back here. There you go. Needle 1, needle 2, knit 2 together. 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 And as you can see, this is creating our rolled hem. So these are joined. I'll show you what it looks like after I'm done. So just continue in this manner, knitting the front needle and back needle stitches together until you've gone across the whole length of your knitting. Okay, we've just finished knitting together all of those stitches from the provisional cast on with the working stitches. So we've created our nice little rolled hem. This is the back where we can see So I'm just going to join this to work in the round now. So I'm going to fold my wrong sides together. You can tell it's the wrong side because of these purl bumps from the joining we just did. And to join to work in the round, all I'm going to do is simply switch this first stitch and this last stitch of the round. So if we were working flat still, this would be the next stitch we'd be knitting. This would be the last stitch we would knit. But we're folding so that we can begin working in the round. And I'm just going to switch the positions of these two stitches. So that one is back there, and this one is up here. And now we're all set up to work in the round. So just continue to work in the round as normal, making your bag. And you have this lovely little rolled hem that you can slip your drawstring through.